Hey there, cats and kitties. I am the Blues Man, Johnny Blues, and with this video, discussing my thoughts on episode 10 of the anime series, Megalo Box. And holy shnikes, man. Three major things that I never would have expected actually happen in this episode. Succinctly, one after the other. Beginning with Pops, Nanbu, having sold he and Joe out from the get-go. Calling back on 3 months previously, do we find that the deal he made with Fujimaki, the Yakuza boss, was that they would only get so far. They'd get to the first round match in Megalonia, and then Joe would bow out. Like he has done previously in his career. That's what he was known for, taking a dive. And, man... like, I had a feeling Fujimaki was there to strong-arm them to some degree, to the nth degree, to make them bow out at this stage. And I talked a lot about, you know, my theories along those lines in the comments back and forth with some of you guys on my previous episode discussion video. And I never would have seen coming that it was actually Pops that was the focal point of the sellout. Because of all of the debts. I mean, arguably, you could say with all the debts that were overhanging the both of them, he was trying to maybe squirm out of, you know, all the money they owed, try to save both of their asses. But, of course, Joe himself looks at Pops as like, you were only ever concerned about yourself. You were trying to save your own ass. And you would just use and discard anyone who got in your way or stood in the way of that. Or, you know, in the case of Joe himself, he feels like he was exploited to those ends. And understandably so. I would feel like I had just been smacked upside the head with a 2x4 by my nearest and dearest, by my most trusted benefactor, if I had found the same out as Joe did. And here's Fujimaki. He's come calling. He's like, we're burying it now. This is as far as you were allowed to go, and now you pay adherence to the rules, the deal we set up. Otherwise, you're dead. And, like, it's not just Pops, you, singularly. You also have the lives of Joe and even little Sachio under your belt. If you don't appease me, if you don't answer to what we agreed to, in the manner with which we agreed to it, all three of you are going to sink with the fishes. You know, forget it. You're all done. You're all dead, gone, buried. And it was just like, holy, oh man. I was gobsmacked by that. The secondary thing, of course, is once Pops sort of gets his bearings again, of course, Joe has left, all told. He feels betrayed, and he's not having any part of it ever again. And but is where Pops and Sachio link up again. And he knows the backstory, the back history of Sachio. His father had paid the price for his own sort of, you know, inventing prowess, I guess you could say, having invented the gear. I believe it's probably the gear that Mikio got his hands on. I'm assuming the, you know, tip of the hat, because the Lady Shirato has no awareness of this at all. But, you know, Sachio's father was an employee for the Shirato group, and his invention of whatever kind of gear it was that he invented was usurped from him, and then he died under probably mysterious circumstances. And this has been the fuel, you know, in the fire for Sachio. He is kind of, sort of, arguably, as Pops puts it, been exploiting the notion of Joe's going to the nth degree and winning Megalonia just to stick the finger up at Shirato Group out of a sense of vengeance for the loss of Sachio's father. Again, somewhat understandable. And as I say, I think the tip of the hat is that this was the gear that Mikio was working on. He probably, you know, Sachio's father was probably one of the key developers of it or something like that in the earlier stages. And Mikio stole that from him and, to silence him, probably offed him or hired somebody who would do that, carry that out. And so Pops effectively brings Sachio to this big gala party that's being held at you know, the Lady Shirato's manor house, I guess. And hands Sachio a knife and says, go get your revenge. just go ahead, kid. You know? And I'm like, are you serious? Like, I know, if you go against what Fujimaki has set out before you, you're dead anyway. But I mean, he's not thinking clearly, handing Sachio a knife and being like, go get your vengeance, go get your sweet revenge, take the life of someone who is, maybe by extension, of course, they don't know all the ins and outs, but maybe by extension is involved with the death of your father because they were the lords and masters of your father and everything like that. And that just freaking gobsmacked me all over again. As a little aside, this isn't the third big thing that happened in the episode that I was surprised about, but as a little aside offshoot from that is the fact that during the first match in Megalonia with Yuri and the spider guy, Spider Iglesias, it was interesting to me that she was in one of those like private viewing rooms in the stadium with the military. Like, why? What was that about? Is part of all of this, is part and parcel of Megalonia and everything like that, to showcase Yuri's gear for perhaps the purposes of a deal with the military? Like, they will buy the gear because it'll make them more effective weapons out on the battlefield for their soldiers or something like that. Which, how much of that is Yuri actually aware of if that's the case? He thinks he's trying to answer to the Lady Sharato's, dreams and make her dreams a reality. And there's so much focus on dreams and unrequited dreams, in a sense, with the fact that the other leg drops and, as far as Joe and Sachio and Pops have come no further, forget the dreams you were beholden to because they're silenced forevermore from this point on, or you're dead, or you go against it and you're dead. So there was never any point to holding out hope for those dreams anyway. But that's the whole, impetus, the driving force and inspiration behind what Yuri's doing. And that is what answers to the third major thing in this episode that gobsmacked me and caught me off guard, was that cool little moment between Yuri and Joe. Joe lamenting his future, his having been betrayed and being uncertain as to how to proceed and all these things. He'd driven his motorcycle to like a riverside and he's just gazing out over the bridge and the cityscape and everything, mulling things over and really just not sure what the next step is. And he sees the white wolf that he encounters in the OP, which turns out to be, of course, the pet of Yuri, who is there, like one echelon higher than where Joe is positioned. But he comes down and they have this really private, communicative moment, this bro discussion back and forth about why Joe is fighting gearless now and what was the motivation of Yuri's coming this far and keeping up with it and everything like that. And these two antagonistic forces, it's like there was no bravado, there was no challenging each other or threatening each other. It was just calmly, very subdued, trying to understand the point of view of the opposition, where they're both coming from, what their motivations were, and revealing that to each other. And I think both, guys, much as I myself, the viewer, was kind of like, wow. I mean, both of them equally go slackjaw in reaction. The most surprising of which was Yuri, who's like, huh. When Joe talks about actually believing in himself, achieving something without the gear, without the aid, the assistance, and how using just his bare fists, it's like he's putting his life on the line every time, and he gets a kick out of that. He gets the adrenaline up out of that and the excitement. And this is something Yuri maybe he once was familiar with, but I doubt if he even taps into that anymore, using the gear for so long. It's become a part of him. So to then have Yuri reveal, well, I'm doing it for her. It's unspoken, but it's inferable whom he means, the Lady Shirato. And of course you have Joe then being like, huh. And it was just a pitch perfect moment. I loved it. And so that's all told this episode. It was 3 major whoppers of twists and turns as far as the story goes and the plotting that I couldn't have predicted. I couldn't have seen coming. And I probably should have to some degree. And then, as I say, as the aside, the whole aspect of the Lady Shirato working with the military. If there is any more to that, as I speculate, or not, remains to be seen. It's also the fact that, you know, which I forgot to mention in talking about how Pops brought Sachio to kill the Lady Shirato to get his sweet revenge. He then leaves, you know, Sachio with her, makes her sort of take care of him and protect him because, you know, if Joe's going to have his way, well, all three of their lives are dead and buried, you know, anyway. So the only thing he can make sense of, that is to say Pops, is, you know, save the child's life. And by some extension, it's the Lady Shirato's responsibility because it was her company that saw to Sachio's father's death. And that too, it was, you know, one thing after another along the course of this episode in succession. It was like one surprise, one twist and turn after another, and it fairly well gobsmacked me. I was on the edge of my seat the entire time, and damned if I can't wait to see where it goes from here. Really, seriously, like, holy crap, man. Bring on the next one. All told, it's going to be a week-long wait that is going to feel like 3 months to the next episode. But in any case, that's going to be pretty much it for me on this. Hope this video finds you well, and I'll catch you all later. Peace.